Welcome back. An estimated 16,000 African students who were living in Ukraine are now scrambling to continue their studies. Many had a traumatic time fleeing Russia and Ukraine's conflict amid reports of racial abuse at the border. Now, the conflict has left many African students with difficult choices and left some of them with the prospects of not completing their studies.
Mkateko Muyamane and 6 fellow African students hid in a subway as Russian shells pounded Kharkiv before fleeing Ukraine on a train bound for Budapest. He was studying medicine with a year to go until graduation when Russia invaded. Now the 24-year-old is back in Johannesburg.
There is no university in Ukraine. It's literally smithereens. It's been bombed down and, turned into rubbles. So, yeah, we're basically sitting ducks.
Muyamane is among tens of thousands of African students whose studies were upended by the conflict. Having escaped the horrors of war, he's now concerned with how to salvage his education.
Medicine is my dream. I remember as a small black child, growing up and watching my dad go to work. He's a medical doctor, that inspired me, to want to help people, to do better, so I really do want to do it for other people too. Having gone through the hardships of war, it makes it more of a purpose to fulfill my dream, yeah.
Ukraine's history of attracting African students dates back to the Cold War, when Soviet states wooed young academics from newly independent nations with the promise of a subsidized education. More recently, the country has offered world-class educational facilities at a fraction of the cost of Western universities. At her house in Ghana's capital, Mame Akusa-Addo is unpacking the few materials she managed to bring back with her to Accra. The 23-year-old medical student was just 3 months away from graduation when she was forced to flee Ternopil in western Ukraine. She describes having to wait for 14 hours at the border with Romania.
I remember thinking when I was right in front of the gate, wait, is this where I die? Because I didn't have any more energy and I was literally about to pass out.
Russian President Vladimir Putin says his special military operation is meant to disarm Ukraine, whose aspirations to join NATO and the EU are anathema to Moscow. Thousands have been killed and a quarter of Ukraine's 44 million population have been driven from their homes. Students like Addo hope the bloodshed will end and that they might be able to return to their studies.
Well, another student who's been through a lot of what we've just seen is Mandisa Malinidisa, who studied at the Kharkiv National Medical University, and she's one of the first few students who was evacuated from Ukraine and returned back home following the intensifying of the Russian invasion in Ukraine. Mandisa, thanks very much indeed for joining us. You've just seen that report there. Are some of those students some of the students you were at school with?
That was my classmates, actually.
Wow.
We actually escaped together, so yeah. Wow.
So your university doesn't exist anymore?
Physically it doesn't. Wow. But we're doing online learning, but it's really there's no order. Yeah. For some teachers still in Ukraine. It's just not good at the moment, unfortunately.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about your situation. You were quite far in your studies, studying medicine, right? I mean, you were, nearly finished, a year to go?
2 more to go.
Right.
Well, yeah, I was finishing my 4th year. Mm-hmm.
All right, so what have they been saying to you in terms of the plan going forward? Is there a hope that they will find a way to get you back into your studies after the war?
That's what the plan is. I know for this semester. I don't know what's going to happen in September when it's the new school calendar.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure yet, but they're trying. They're really trying their best. They're trying.
What about South African medical schools? Have they been looking to assist you perhaps joining their programs, or is that another whole discussion?
Whew, that one, it's difficult. It's kind of difficult. We're trying, the problem is spacing, integrating, trying to match curriculum. So it's also another mess, but we are trying with it. But it's just time. Everything, we gotta wait for everything.
So
it's not easy, but we have to wait and see.
So essentially, your life has stopped in an instant. As soon as the Russian troops crossed the border, it was a pause button on your life. How difficult has that been?
It's been very difficult. It's like the escape alone was difficult. And then getting here, not knowing what the future holds, just gotta go day by day. It's really not easy. So it's like, what do you do now?
Tell us about that journey when you knew that you had to leave. What was happening?
I was supposed to leave on the 24th. That was like my initial ticket to come back. And then around 1 a.m., Gateko sent me a tweet. He's like, look, the airport is temporarily closed. And I was like, oh, man. But they said it will be closed until noon. So I was just normal. I was like, okay, my flight is in the evening, so everything will be fine. But no. At 4 that morning, that's when the bomb started falling, and then it's just been hectic ever since then.
So you actually saw and heard some of the attacks?
Everything. You can even feel the ground shaking.
Wow.
See the tanks. Oh, man. Buildings falling. You see fire. Ooh.
That must have been frightening for you.
Witnessed everything. Yeah, very. It was very traumatic. It took a while for me to recover, actually.
My goodness. Then there was that whole border story. Just before we get there, how was life inside Ukraine up until that moment?
It was very normal, actually. It was very normal. Like, life in Ukraine, it's nice living there. It's just the language barrier that's a bit, because we speak Russian there. But life in Ukraine is actually fine. Like, there's no racism. Or if there is, I probably didn't see it or witness it until we got to the border. That's when.
So that was your first experience in 4 years of.
Very first. Mm-hmm.
So the authorities are saying the authorities were trying to say that a lot of it was about pregnant women going first, women going first ahead of men. Is that how you saw it play out?
Initially, we were supposed to go to Poland, and then when we were because it took us 4 days to just get to across the country. And then we heard that, hey, Poland, it's crazy. Yeah. So we're like, okay, we're going to try to go to Romania. And then people are like, oh, Romania, they're only letting women and children. Then we were like, oof, Slovakia, we're just scared of Slovakia. So we're like, okay, Hungary. It was also difficult. Yeah. Hungary was, the border was really tough.
So who was helping you travel and food and accommodation along the way?
Traveling in Ukraine, the trains were free, luckily, because they want you to get out. Food, luckily there were some humanitarians at the train stations. In terms of accommodation, when we got to Hungary, there was a man named Peter. He helped us out, so we stayed with him. But yeah.
Wow.
We had to do everything out by ourselves.
Wow.
Yeah.
How many African students were at your university?
How many?
Yeah. We're talking thousands.
A lot. Thousands.
Wow.
Just fourth year, us alone, 800. Just fourth year students.
Fourth year students studying medicine.
Fourth year medical.
Wow. Wow. So that's a lot of lives that have been...
So I think first year, second year, a lot.
So that's a lot of lives disrupted.
And that's just one university.
Wow. Okay, so you're doing online courses now with the same university. How are they operating? I mean, with infrastructure destroyed, what are they teaching you?
Sorry. It's kind of difficult for like me being in fourth year because you find that some subjects are clinical rotations, some subjects are physical rehabilitation. And so it's like, how do you? So then there just wouldn't be anything because I've only had 2 classes so far, but every other, like the teacher will just say, go, read this. If you don't understand, let me know. Some are still like, in bunkers, bomb shelters. It's quite messy. It's messy.
Are you in touch with any Ukrainian students that stayed behind?
Teachers, students, I don't really know Ukrainians. No. But teachers, yeah.
And how are they coping?
Not good. Not good at all. Like some of my teachers, like the class will start and then they'll be like, oh, I gotta go. And you're like, okay. Unfortunately.
So what are your plans right now? What are you able to try and do?
Like right now, we just with the organizations with Expat South Africa and SAISA, which is the South African International Student Association. We're currently, reaching out to the universities, HPCSA, to try and find a way forward of how they can integrate us. So that's what we're currently doing. But it's like it's a whole discussion in its own.
Mandisa, thank you so much for talking to us, and we wish you the best. We hope that all of this gets resolved and that you get yourself on a plane back to finish your studies. We certainly need your skills in the future as a doctor, so we wish you the best of luck. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right. That's Mandisa telling us her really sad story. Just in her year group, 4th year medical students, in her one university, 800 students. So you can imagine just how many lives have been disrupted by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Students' lives, doctors and other students' lives upended, which is quite sad to see. All right, we're going to take a break. No, in fact, we're going to carry on. We're going to talk sport now.